Hey, wonderful people, how are you out there? Let's get into it. Is Prince Harry a war criminal? We got a lot to get. We got a lot to get into here. We got Prince Harry has just admitted to something that could make him a war criminal in some people's eyes. But I'm gonna get into it a little deeper than your mainstream media would. That's what we do here, right? You're used to it. You know how it works. Where I'm not gonna just hit it from the same angle that you'd get from some Pierce Morgan garbage. So hang on for that. I'm also gonna get into the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, who's funding him because I did do an extensive episode of Most Censored News on who funds Hakeem Jeffries, the new leader of the Democrats in the House. I told you who was pulling his strings. So I figure if I spend all that time on the Democrat, I got to also reveal to you who are the people with their hand up the ass of Kevin McCarthy puppeteering everything that goes on in our Congress, which is completely bought and sold. And I'll explain how in a minute. And I'll get into some other topics as well. But thanks for being here. Please click subscribe, click thumbs up, whatever it's called on Rumble. Follow, not subscribe. Follow. Have you noticed all these words? They've all been diluted. They don't mean anything anymore. Words are just like story doesn't mean. It used to mean something. Now it's a thing on Instagram that I don't know. Stories, friends, followers. Followers used to be like you had an army of people with like sticks and boards with nails sticking out of them, and they would follow you to go kill whoever needed to be killed. Now follower just means somebody was drunk one night and they click the little button and then they get an email one time and they're like, who? That's all it means now. It used to mean something. Followers. Anyway, click the follow, click the subscribe, whatever it is. Please do that. But let's get into Prince Harry. And here's the thing. I want to start off. Well, first of all, I want to explain this headline. Taliban leader accuses Prince Harry of killing innocent Afghans. Now, I'm not saying you should ever trust a Taliban leader. I'm not. If you think that that's what this live stream is me being like, listen, the Taliban has a lot of great points. Why are more people not signing up to join the Taliban? No, that's not what I'm saying here. But I actually think that this article is more. I think, Al Jazeera, that's the thing. So this is Al Jazeera News. Now, they're definitely they're going to give you more information about this reality than you would get from your mainstream media, the Western mainstream media. However, Al Jazeera is still mainstream media. So they're still, at the end of the day, they're not going to go that harsh. Like, they're not going to use Prince Harry or other these people in the word sociopath in a sentence together, which I very well might. But so I wanted to explain that. But I also wanted to say Prince Harry, and I look, I'm sorry, I don't follow the royals play by play. I don't know what they do day to day. I'm not like, oh, did you see the shoes they wore that day? But I will say that from the 3 clips I've seen of Prince Harry over the last 10 years, he seems to be the rational one of the bunch. Like, it seems like he fell in love with someone who, oh, God forbid, had a different skin color. And the whole royal family flipped the fuck out and couldn't have that. And so now they eventually fled to America. Like we want them. We don't want royals. Don't send them our way. Just don't. But I will say that Prince Harry, it seems like the bunch seems to be the more rational, kind of normal human. But in this case, he is not living up to that reputation of being the normal human. So he came out with his book, which it tells you what cereals they like and how tough it was to have someone taking his photo and stuff. So, but then within the book, he was in the British military for 10 years, and he says in the book, my number is 25 in terms of number of people he killed. And he says, it's not a number that fills me with satisfaction, but nor does it embarrass me. He wrote, when I found myself plunged in the heat and confusion of battle, I don't think of those 25 as people. They were chess pieces removed from the board, bad people eliminated before they could kill good people. Now, first, let's analyze just what he said before we get into the deeper ramifications. Just in his wording, and remember, this is not some interview where he stumbled over his words. He chose to put this in a book. He sat and looked at that sentence and was like, yeah, that makes sense. So he's admitting that in the battle of war, these are no longer human beings. You're admitting that humanity has been lost in this war, which should then, if you're going to say something like that, should then have, I'd say, a good couple of pages on how fucked up it is to be involved in a war where humanity is lost, where human beings no longer matter. Like, that should be the one of the chief walkaways that you have after you read that. That should be the chief point that you have after you read him talking about being in battle. Secondly, he says confusion of battle. So he's admitting that these were confused circumstances, which should then be like, wow, let's sit down and analyze why the hell we would send anybody, much less Prince Harry or any royals, any of the top echelon, why we would send anyone into a situation where they are going to be in such an amount of confusion that killing other human beings seems to make sense, and you don't really know who those other human beings are. Also within this sentence, because he's making it quite clear that there was heat and confusion and all these things, he had no idea who these people were. Now he's claiming they're bad people. But beyond claiming they're bad people, he has no idea who these human beings are. Just he believes he took out bad people. But if he has no idea who they are, he can't know that they were bad people, could he? You have to know who the people are to know they're bad people. And if you are the confused idiot in a country shooting at people, not knowing who they are, and assuming they're bad people, shock, that makes you the bad person. Mind blown. So in just these like two sentences of him trying to justify, trying to explain, and also half trying to brag about the number of people he's killed, he has completely upended the idea, the propaganda that we go into these battles, we being mainly Americans, but obviously, you know, as you guys know, we're British fighting there as well. But as we go into these battles, we don't know nor really care who we're killing. We kind of prefer to kill the people that were going to be, the biggest problem to us, get in our way the most, those kind of things. But in general, this is the U.S. empire, which, if you really follow these things, Britain is now a vassal state of. So when I say U.S. empire, Britain is part of that. And when the U.S. empire goes into these things, they're hoping to create largely failed states. They're not hoping to free anyone or save anyone or create democracy. None of that really matters to our U.S. empire's global warfare. It's about creating failed states that won't get in the way of ongoing U.S. hegemony. That's what it's about. And it was done in Iraq. It was done in Libya. It was done in Syria. Even though Assad hasn't left power, Syria, 90% of the country is in extreme poverty. Syria is essentially a failed state. And it was done in Afghanistan. And it's been done in so many other places, not always through bullets and bombs, sometimes through economic warfare. But it's been done in a lot of countries. And the U.S., sure, we also steal some resources from Afghanistan. We also wanted pipelines through Afghanistan. There were some other little perks and benefits. The weapons contractors made bank from going into Afghanistan. There's other things going on there. It also serves the U.S. propaganda to keep everyone in line. You got to tell everybody there's a big scary thing that's going to get you. And so don't question us. Don't doubt us. Don't ever point at the ruling class and say they're the actual problem for us here, not fucking Taliban fighters or whatever. And in fact, the Pentagon, Prince, Harry in this quote is admitting to heat and confusion, and I don't know who I was shooting, but they were bad guys. I don't know what's going on there. That's my accent for Prince Harry. I think I'm pretty much nailing that accent. I don't know what I'm doing. But the Pentagon actually said during the whole Afghanistan catastrophe, they eventually admitted, or maybe I can't remember whether it was internally and these documents were released, or whether they actually said it publicly, but it doesn't really matter either way. They said that their analysis of what counts as an enemy combatant, because there was a time when our Pentagon would actually tell you how many enemy combatants they were killing and how many innocent civilians they were killing. Now, anyone with half a brain knew not to trust their numbers, but still, they used to tell you something. They used to walk out there and go, here are the numbers. And they admitted that the definition of enemy combatant was any, I believe it was male, any male of military age in a target area. They defined as an enemy combatant. Think about that for a minute. Any male of military age is an enemy combatant, whether they have a gun, whether they're part of the Taliban, whether they're doing anything, whether they could be selling a goat on the side of the road, and just because they're of military age in what the U.S. has deemed a target area, that's now an enemy combatant. So when the Pentagon made that analysis and announced that and said, or maybe it was internally, but said this is how it works, included in that judgment of how that's how their targeting is going to work is Prince Harry and the British Army and everything else. They're with us. They're under us, really, in this imperial war games. And so when Harry says he's taking out bad guys, he very well could mean exactly the same thing that the Pentagon said. Males of military age in an area that we deemed tricky, in an area that we deemed to be filled with scalawags. So it's him saying I took bad guys off the chessboard. There's no evidence or proof that he actually took bad guys off, assuming he actually killed people and didn't make all this up. There's no proof that he killed bad guys. Very well could have just shot children or random people, which is a lot of what we were doing over there. But anyway, fascinatingly, the Taliban administration denounced Prince Harry for his admission of killing 25 people while on military duty in Afghanistan. A senior Afghan official has accused the royal of killing innocent civilians. We checked and found that the days in which Prince Harry is mentioning the killing of 25 mujahideen, which, by the way, the U.S. armed and created back in the 80s, right? The mujahideen. And then we went, oh, that's interesting. They're turning against us. Fascinating. But so this is from the Afghan official said, we checked the days and that he claimed killing 25 people, and we did not have any casualties in Helmand, the area. It is clear that civilians and ordinary people were targeted. He's saying that on the days Prince Harry claims to have killed these 25, there weren't actually any fighters in that area. And then he also tweeted, the Afghan official also tweeted, Mr. Harry, the ones you killed were not chess pieces. They were humans. Referring to Harry's description of killing enemy combatants. The truth is what you've said, our innocent people were chess pieces to your soldiers, military, and political leaders. And then the spokesman for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the Western occupation of Afghanistan is truly an odious moment in human history, and comments by Prince Harry is a microcosm of the trauma experienced by Afghans at the hands of occupation forces who murdered innocents without any accountability. And Of course, you have to layer on top of this all of these other facts, such as even if you wanted to say the US was justified in invading Afghanistan, which we were not, but even if you wanted to say we were, this is years after the initial invasion, years after, there's been many that have been quoted to say, many that have been quoted to say that the Taliban actually was defeated in the first few months and offered to turn over Osama bin Laden, and we turned that down because the truth is we didn't really want bin Laden. We wanted to destroy Afghanistan and put our puppet government in, which we did, and obviously make all the money from the military weaponry and everything else. So we kept this thing going. So when Prince Harry, when the prince of the royal family was there, he was there years after we'd initially invaded, and we were just continuing to kill Taliban. During this time, also, Matthew Ho, who I've interviewed multiple times and was over there multiple times, has said that they didn't know who they were killing. They didn't know who the bad guys were. In fact, this was in the Afghanistan papers that was leaked, and even the Washington Post covered this. Now, granted, they were 10 years too late, which is what the Washington Post and the New York Times do. Occasionally, they'll tell the truth, but it's 10 years too late. But even the Washington Post in the Afghanistan papers revealed quotes and memos by Donald Rumsfeld, who was the Secretary of Defense at the beginning of this thing, as saying, I'm not even clear on who the bad guys are. And multiple times they had meetings, the U.S. higher ups had meetings where they thought they were going to be told, here are the bad guys and here are the good guys. And they were never clear on who the bad guys are, the good guys. They were running around offering money to people to kill other people, and they didn't even know which side. They would offer one warlord or Taliban leader. They would say, if you burn your poppy fields, your opium fields, we will pay you millions of dollars. So then the guy would go and burn his competitors' poppy fields because it's his competitors are great. He'd get millions of dollars payment for burning the poppy fields, then keep his own opium fields. On top of that, you have the fact that the U.S. was getting 80% of the heroin and opium is sent to the U.S. was using most of it, even as we're so-called burning it. Just billions of dollars just lost, missing, given to Afghan warlords. The U.S. admitted that we were paying the Taliban to let our trucks through mountain passes, because there were mountain passes in order to get to, barely, not paved at all, but barely even dirt roads. And we're trying to get military vehicles through there so we can continue the fight. And they could easily ambush these mountain passes and destroy every military vehicle that we sent through there. So what did we do? Well, we paid the Taliban to let our trucks through so we could fight the Taliban somewhere else. We were paying the Taliban to fight the Taliban. It was Catch-22, the novel, just writ large. And here in the middle of it was a fucking royal sent to go kill random people that he admits in the confusion he didn't know who it was, but they were bad people. Oh, were they? Were they bad people? You're certain of that, huh? It's just truly mind-blowing to see these confessions, and he acts like it's fine. It's no big thing. It's totally cool. The Prince Harry, said those responsible and their sympathies were enemies of humanity. Oh, so yeah, he said the people he killed were enemies of humanity, which he's saying he doesn't know who he killed, but yeah, they were enemies of humanity. I have no idea who I killed, but I'm sure it must have been enemies of humanity as I was killing them. As I'm killing humanity, I'm sure I was killing people who were enemies of humanity. And fighting them was an act of vengeance for a crime against humanity. Obadallah Bahir, an Afghan analyst based in Kabul, said Harry's remarks illustrate how collateral damage is such a slippery slope. This lack of sentiment, complete detachment from the sin of taking life justified by a grander cause. What Harry said could have been what a Taliban fighter would have said. It's funny how all this education, all this modernity hasn't taught Prince Harry how to be human or to value human life, unquote. And of course, that modernity, that education didn't teach him how to value human life, because that education, those extensive high level of educations are actually, and of course the indoctrination in the military, are actually meant to teach you the opposite, to teach you how not to value human life so you can be sent in there to eliminate human life in pursuit of defending the empire, meaning the U.S. empire, with which Britain is now a vassal part of. And that's the point of that education. And then, of course, there's the added, I don't know how many other, I know people are obviously talking about this story, but I don't know how many other people are mentioning the incredible irony of a British royal being sent in, the third in line for the crown, sent in to kill people in Afghanistan, considering the British history of invading Afghanistan, where Britain has invaded Afghanistan multiple times. We just can't quit you. Why can't I quit you? England used Afghanistan as a buffer state to protect all approaches to British India from a Russian invasion back in the 1800s. There were British invasions of Afghanistan from 1838 to 1842, 1878 to 1880, and 1919. And then, of course, as part of the U.S. invasion. So the Brits have a long history of invading Afghanistan, killing people, killing some folks, destroying lives. And here was Prince Harry doing it again, being part of it again, except this time with the U.S. at the helm. And, he throws it. It's one of the smaller revelations in his book, right? Just a little sprinkling in the book. What most people are talking about is, the paparazzi stuff is in the book. That's really what they care about, more so than the fact that this guy is a sociopathic killer. Now, I don't think in his average life he's maybe as much a sociopath, but this is what the military does to a human being. It's maybe it is. I don't know. We haven't hung out much. But this is what the military does to a human being. Is it takes them and it says, oh, these people are not human. The people over there are not human. You're the human. You're the one that matters. So you go and you just kill as many as you can, and that helps the good people, the people who care about humanity, to achieve their goals. That's what happens. But I hope you see that there's a lot of levels to this that you will not be getting from the mainstream coverage of it. You might get some coverage of him saying that, but you're not going to get the deeper implications of what this, is, exemplifies, what it's a microcosm of in terms of the U.S. empire and our obliteration of human life. And of course, this goes on today with the sanctions against Afghanistan. More people are dying in Afghanistan right now from our economic war on them than were dying last year or 2 years ago, from our bombing of Afghanistan. So just because we withdraw the troops and withdraw the bombs and withdraw the Prince Harry's shooting at people does not mean people aren't dying. There are more people dying now than at least last year. I don't know about when Harry was there. But, and if Prince Harry actually cared about the humanity that he left behind when he left Afghanistan, then right now he would spend a lot of time talking about how our economic war on them, which obviously Britain's a part of, should end immediately. And rather than trying to crush a country economically so that as many people are starving as possible, and the U.S. has stolen billions of dollars of Afghanistan's, from their banks, basically, that was being held overseas. And rather than trying to crush these human beings, the poorest human beings in Afghanistan, we should be sending nothing but money and aid and everything else. And I don't mean the fake U.S. aid that we pretend to send, but oh yes, so someone just mentioned it. I'm sorry that Eleanor Goldfield is not here today. She was she was on the Wednesday episode. So if you want to see an episode with Eleanor, you can go back to Wednesday and watch that one. She couldn't make it today, but generally when she misses one, we make it up. We make it up to you guys. So, all right. The next part of this live stream about Kevin McCarthy, the new Speaker of the House, and who funds him, who puppeteers him, whose hands are up that dummy's ass. And I meant dummy as in ventriloquist, that kind of dummy, not like he's not brilliant. This live stream is going to continue at rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's rumble.com/Lee Camp. It's completely free to watch there. So it's not behind a paywall, but it's at rumble.com/Lee Camp. I hope you will join me over there. And even if you aren't, I hope you'll become a member at leecamp.net. You can become a member for free over there. You won't get everything, but I hope you will become a subscribing full-time member. The minimum now is $6 a month. So like $1.50 a week. And I hope you'll do that at leecamp.net. That'll further you or forward you to my locals page. And that's the only way I keep any of this going. So, all right, let's get on over to rumble.com/Lee Camp.